Coventry couple, Andrew and Brian, and their friends Pete and Lesley were all agreed they'd found the perfect plot on which to build their dream holiday home with a view. But back in England, when Brian and Andrew received the site plan from the architect, they were in for a shock.
I don't think that house fits that plot. It's too tight to the sides.
But Pete and Lesley don't agree.
I quite like it.
I don't.
Oh, why?
It's too tight.
And just when he thought things couldn't get any worse, Brian was given the quote for his huge hydraulic picture window.
We're talking budget costs of circa £38,000.
What? 38,000.
Pete and Lesley have driven down from Wales to Brian and Andrew's house in Coventry to discuss the problems with the plot face to face. They'll be in for a shock, however, when they hear the estimated cost of Brian's giant picture window.
We went to Solar Glass, and they want to do it.
But at a price. What was your limit on?
I said it was probably going to cost about 20 grand, and Brian says, well, if it does, we can't go ahead with it.
Right.
So...
Well, in actual fact...
It's 38.
What?
God.
38.
No, come on, you're joking.
No.
That's nearly half the price of the property. It's going to be way over budget.
That's why we wanted to talk to you sort of fairly urgently about
Well, there's no
it.
way we can put in any more money.
38 grand on a window, Brian. I just couldn't justify it. Not for a few weeks of a year. Which is what will be...
We've got a house that we're still developing that 19,000 would work wonders on.
But if there was a way of having the window without any cost to you, you wouldn't have any objection to it being there, would you?
Well, I'm not controlling your wallet, but certainly it wouldn't come out of my wallet.
Okay. But I think we need to tell them our other...
There's no way you're going to convince me, Brian, to spend 38 grand or whatever on a window.
But Brian and Andrew now have an even bigger shock in store for them.
Can I throw something else into the pot?
Well, you might as well. Let's have it all out.
How would you react if we said that we actually wanted to live out there?
Well, permanently.
What, permanently?
Yeah.
What, when? Straight away?
Yeah.
Well, first thing I have to
everything,
say,
doesn't it?
have you thought about it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, you're going to rent this place out and hope it's going to pay for you?
No, we're talking about...
Selling the house, moving lock, stock and barrel out to Crete.
How long have you been thinking about this then?
Until this window came up.
We weren't planning to live out there all the time, perhaps go out there for more than
don't,
a couple of months or something.
Don't think that we'd hoodwinked you into coming on to
Have
this
you really thought about this, though, Brian?
Yeah.
Yes.
I seriously think that Les and I are going to have to review.
Changes everything.
It changes our perspective of how we're going to view the project, because you're now going to be out there all the time, 12 months of the year.
I think the caveat here is, and I don't want to put pressure on you, I really don't, but we actually do need your involvement.
We can't do the whole project on our own.
We can't.
Now, I don't want to sort of, leave you with, a bad feeling that we may pull out, but I think you'll have to look at the possibility.
Seriously, if you pull out, then we'll have to abort. We can do nothing other than abort.
Brian and Andrew's radical rethink has been a real blow to Pete and Lesley. Not only have they lost the plot they'd fallen in love with, they're now contemplating a very different sort of home-owning partnership with their rather unpredictable friends. But why did Brian and Andrew reach this dramatic, life-changing decision?
The window, because it's become the sort of main feature, certainly in terms of expense, it's leapt up in the priority list as the #1 feature. So that has been a major influence on the decision, because that sort of money, plus the cost of building, plus the cost of land, it was impossible to do it as a second home
the realities of the fact came through. I mean, we were actually trying to achieve something that was unachievable. We couldn't actually have funded it. I mean, that really is the bottom line.
But back in Wales, Pete and Lesley are still having reservations about what Brian and Andrew have proposed.
Just the fact that they're moving out there gives some inequity in the split of the property. Not necessarily just a financial split, but the fact that they're going to be out there 12 months of the year, we're going to be popping in, you know, we may well be looked upon as a downstairs relatives.
I was a bit disturbed as well at the end of our conversation when Brian said that if we pulled out, it would finish it. It sounded a little bit like blackmail.
It's early August, and Brian and Andrew are planning a return trip to Crete in order to search for the right plot. But having now made the decision to relocate over there, they know that they'll have to sell their house here in Coventry, and fast, to free up the necessary funds. So Brian's made a call to Clive James, an old school friend of his who's a senior salesman with a local estate agent.
Well, I spoke to her on the phone, and now we want to sell.
Okay.
Brian and Andrew have already made their own calculations as to how much they need to raise from the house, so they're now keen to get it valued by Clive. Certainly it's an attractive property with a spacious garden and would make an excellent family home. Upstairs there are 4 good-sized bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, so they're hopeful of getting a good price. Around $325,000 is what they've estimated. But before Clive will give them a price, he needs to know how quickly they want to sell.
What we need to establish quite clearly is the time span. When do you actually need to be gone?
We are looking at September.
Yes, I mean, we have to sell the house to facilitate building the other house.
Sure. The mechanics of that mean that I need to find a buyer within 3 to 4 weeks. Now, not saying that can't be done.
Well, can you?
Well, this will obviously have an effect and certainly a great bearing on the pricing policy that
Let me
we
stop you
adopt.
there. What sort of price is this on the market, or will you put it on the market at?
Right, my recommendations are that we're talking around 315,000. But you need to allow a degree of flexibility.
How much?
It could be, I wouldn't like to see that going any less than 3, and I'm sure you wouldn't either.
No.
But you have to allow that sort of degree of
Clive,
flexibility.
when it comes to 300,000, that makes our project in Crete a non-starter.
I feel you're going to probably finish up between 3.5 and 3.10. It needs to be attractive enough for me to be able to get people through the front door.
This is obviously less than Brian and Andrew had been anticipating, but assuming their up-and-coming trip to Crete is successful and they find the right plot, they'll need to realise the capital in the house as soon as possible.
What sort of period do you think you're going to need?
Realistically, we have a good chance. I would have preferred you to have said to me sort of October, November, but September, once you give me the go-ahead, we'll hit the button.
Well, let's go for it. Look, just put the bloody thing on the market.
Okay.
And go for it, will you?
Fine.
Selling the house is only the first step, however. When they get to Crete, they'll have precious little money left actually to live on. So it'll be vital they get jobs quickly.
Because of my background, because of the things I've done, marketing, cinema, obviously here at the supermarket, it's actually very difficult to see what hole I fit into. I'm perhaps looking for maybe something in the holiday industry, looking after people, hosting people, sorting out their problems, which I think I've got a talent for, and I'd like to put those to good use in Crete. That's what I'd like to do. I may end up as a deck chair attendant, you never know.
Andrew, on the other hand, believes he should have no difficulty in continuing in his current job as an aircraft loading supervisor.
I hope to do a similar thing in Crete on either Heraklion or Hania. It just depends, but most of the airlines use both airports and have the same staff covering both airports. I'm in a slightly better position than, say, somebody from the UK because they won't have to provide any accommodation or anything because obviously I'm living there, so I'm more able to work for them and be at their beck and call without them having to pay to keep me somewhere. So hopefully that should work in my favour.
It's been just 6 weeks since their last trip to Crete, and in that short time, Brian and Andrew's lives have gone through several enormous twists and turns.
We're going to be looking at it in a different light now, because we're not looking at it somewhere you're on holiday, it's somewhere you're actually going to live. So there's a different aspect to looking now.
So we have to find the right property, the right location, everything, which is again exciting. That's a quest.
But as they pack their bags and prepare to travel to Crete again, they have little idea of the life-changing adventure that is about to begin. Brian and Andrew have returned to northwest Crete, and they have just a week to find the right plot for what will now be their new home. So what will be their first move now that they're here?
Our plan is to see the architect, Michaelis, who had the vision last time about what we wanted, and then go and have a look at this plot that we've called the Olive Grove.
The Olive Grove plot is one that they all viewed and dismissed on their last trip to Crete. But now the thinking is that it may be suitable after all. The problem was that because the plot was totally flat, they were unable to see the view over the neighbouring olive trees. On this trip, however, they hope not to have that problem.
Douglas has said he's got a scaffold tower. It's up at the level where our part of the villa is going to be.
You've checked that he has done that, have
Yeah,
you?
I rang him in from Harnia.
Because that's important.
I know it is.
We need to see that view to know if that
Yeah.
plot's right.
But he said it's done, and,
Good.
and I'm sure it'll be done. And then we'll see this view to see if it's right. And if we've got a view, I reckon...
We've cracked it.
Yeah.
We've unpacked. Let's just get a drink.
All right.
Bring the euros.
Yeah.
The following morning in Chania, and before they meet with Douglas, the developer, to reassess the plot, Brian and Andrew have a potentially tricky meeting scheduled with the architect, Michaelis. They need tactfully to convince him that his plan was just too tight on the original plot.
The problem with it is even on the original footprint that you did, it just looked too tight. In Coventry, it's almost the same size plot that we have at home.
Yes.
And
That was the original, wasn't it?
Yes.
that's right. And because we're coming to Crete, we wanted something
More space.
more spacious.
Job.
To help explain what it is they're trying to get away from, Andrew shows him the newly prepared sales particulars for their house back in Coventry.
Just to give you an idea of what we're leaving to come and live here in.
You are selling it.
We are selling it, yes. If you look on the front there, you can see how close at the sides
Yes,
it
it
is,
is.
which
Do you
would be the same
understand?
as there. So we wanted to get away from that to have a bit more space.
Good price. Can we talk about?
The ice is broken, and it's time to tell him about the new plot they're about to view.
You keep it.
We're going to look at one of the other plots we saw, and it's 4,000 square metres.
4,000 square meters.
Yes.
Area? Which area?
It is near Plaka.
Plaka.
So it has the views of the sea rather than the views of the lake.
See the other plot.
We see it
Yes.
this afternoon, yeah.
And if you are good, more of you, we will refix the plans to put it in
Thank
the
you.
new plot.
Thank you.
It's not a big deal.
So, all is well with Michaelis, and Brian and Andrew had hoped to meet with Douglas now and view the Olive Grove plot from the scaffold tower. But Douglas can't meet with them until later. So in the meantime, Brian and Andrew adjourn to their favourite beach to sweat and toil over some essential planning adjustments. Or more specifically for Andrew to toil and for Brian to sweat.
We're relaxing, but trying to shave off 23 square metres from the villa. It's too big. It's just that we have a fixed budget. It's got to be 100 square metres.
There we are. Bring that end in effectively half a metre. Bring that end of the bedroom in half a metre. And that doesn't alter your window at all. Or the size of that room. You said don't touch my window.
Just a few yards along the beach from Brian and Andrew, another regular visitor to the island is taking his morning bath. Martin is a German hermit, and he's been spending his summers on the island for the past 30 years.
So you obviously don't have a house here, but what draws you back every year?
Over all these years, I got to know a lot of local people and a lot of people like you that come back year after year. Or I like the natural environment, I like the sea, I like the Ice Coat River. This is definitely a second home for me.
Yeah.
Martin built his house himself. It's a little more modest than Brian and Andrew's will be, but wonderfully located.
So how long do you stay?
Well,
I
come around May, stay usually till the weather breaks. The first couple of times it rains from beginning to middle of October.
Yeah.
People that try to stay here over the winter will realise that it's not an easy thing to do. And I already know people that have given up their plots again after a period of 5, 6, 7 years because they then realised it was not what they really had expected, and you will find it hard to occupy yourself probably if it's raining for weeks on end.
It's going to be a culture shock. Well, that's what we have to experience, and we haven't.
I'm absolutely sure about the fact that I would never want to buy a place here. I know that. But luckily enough, I found a place where I don't disturb anybody. And
nobody disturbs you?
Yes.
I think there was a slightly sobering thought about the winter, which you and I haven't experienced. And I think we need to come out in the winter, well we will have to while the house is being built.
So we will get experience of it that way.
But I don't think, I hope you realise we weren't just sort of coming out here to relocate for the sake of it. We have thought it through.
I mean,
he's experienced so much.
We realise it's not like this 365 days a year.
Martin's words of wisdom may have slightly unsettled Brian and Andrew, but they're still keen to see the Olive Grove plot. However, one glance at the plot reveals that the tower's not quite ready. In fact, it hasn't actually been started. So, in an attempt to calm his frustrated plot finders, Douglas suggests that while they're waiting for the tower to appear, he shows them a similar-sized plot with a newly built house, in order to give them an idea of what the scale of the Olive Grove plot will be.
So this is an example of a 100 square metre house on a 4,000 square metre plot.
Do you want to take some photographs?
I'll just take some,
so we can
take some
put them down the line to Lesley and Pete.
Yeah. Do you want just one of the house, Brian?
Yeah.
Size, proportion.
Right, now we know. It isn't as big as I thought.
It's not as big as you thought, no. But it's still considerably bigger than the one at the lake.
Yeah, but it's manageable. Is this the size we're having?
We didn't discuss the...
Well, no, we didn't discuss size, did we? No, size is everything where this is concerned.
What size is this one? Let's put it that way.
From memory, I think it's 40 square metres. Great views, eh?
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful property, and they're happy to photograph it for reference. But most of all, seeing this is making them even keener to see the plot they've come all this way to view.
Very nice pool.
It's now 6 o'clock, and the good news is that local British expat Jerry has finally begun work on erecting Douglas's scaffold tower. But it looks like it'll be a while before it's completed. So Douglas invites his now slightly fractious plot finders to join him in a little Cretan hospitality. If they go for the Olive Grove plot, this will be their nearest taverna.
This is the local. Pete will love it. He'll absolutely love it. I mean, it paints the picture of what we're coming to.
Cretan life, yeah.
Absolutely.
Their fellow customers at the taverna are local construction workers who've been enjoying a long and not entirely alcohol-free lunch.
Evidently, these guys, they're in construction and they meet here every Wednesday for refuelling.
There's enough there to fill a tanker. I wonder how many bottles we'll find in the foundation.
Looking at this lot, it's not surprising that Douglas has had problems in finding someone to erect his scaffold tower. But thank goodness for Jerry and his British engineering skills. Another hour or so should see the tower complete. Meanwhile, Yanni, the taverna's owner, has correctly identified Brian and Andrew as potentially big customers. So he's brought out the homemade raki, a fiery local spirit distilled from whatever debris is left over from the vines during the winemaking process. Plus, very probably, the odd construction worker. At last, we come to the moment Brian and Andrew have been waiting for.
This looks really different from what we were here before.
It's unbelievable.
They arrive at the plot in raki-fueled high spirits, which might well be a good thing because it's by no means certain that they'd have dared to climb this tower if they were sober. Perhaps there was method in Douglas's madness after all. Andrew gamely volunteers to go first, determined to set a good example to Brian.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything till Brian's seen it.
Once up, he's giving nothing away, but duly photographs the view so as to be able to show Pete and Lesley back home in Wales. So now, it's Brian's turn to climb the tower. And to everyone's surprise, Raki seems to have brought out the mountain goat in him. He scales the scaffold with no hesitation, while Douglas holds onto the tower for extra support. Whether this is for the tower's benefit or his own is uncertain.
Yep.
Did you want a camera or you just...
No. This is absolutely breathtaking. This is from our lounge.
It'd be lovely, wouldn't it? Really nice.
I cannot believe, Douglas, that this is what we didn't see last time. I mean, that is it. That really is it. We found it. We have.
We have. Eureka.
Absolutely brilliant. It's emotionally draining, actually.
But it's true what they say, when you actually find the right thing, it does sort of hit you in the face.
And that does. I think we have a deal.
So the long wait appears to have been worth it. With a mixture of euphoria and relief, and quite a lot of raki, Brian and Andrew are in no doubt that they've finally found the plot and view they've been searching for. But will they be able to convince Pete and Lesley? In the next programme, Brian grapples with technology to seek approval for the plot from Pete and Lesley.
We're giving them a provisional go-ahead to say, look, you know, on the face of it, on the photographs, we like the site.
But what they don't know is that Brian is thinking of starting a small farm.
So are you thinking of having a couple of pigs?
Yeah.
Are we?
Yes. I thought I talked to you about that.
A month later in Coventry, though, their house has still not sold.
The problem is that if it doesn't happen soon, it could well be the spring.